Welcome back and thanks for watching Morning Live. Now, government has published reasons for tobacco products to be banned, saying in a summary that emerging research shows that smoking leads to more severe cases for those who are infected by COVID-19. And this, in turn, will actually lead to more use of intensive care beds and ventilators in the public healthcare system. However, there are groups lobbying for the sale of tobacco products, and they are disappointed that the ban on tobacco products remains, even as the country will move to a level 3 of the nationwide lockdown on the 1st of June. Now, the Black Tobacco Farmers Association, or BTFA, has accused government of deserting them and ignoring their submissions on the ban. And to discuss these views further, we are joined by Shadrack Sibisi, who's president of the Black Tobacco Farmers Association and chairperson of the South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance. Welcome to Morning Live, Mr. Sibisi. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So let's start by just getting a sense of how exactly the ban of tobacco products has affected farmers and employees financially at this stage.
You must remember that we are in business. Today is the 63rd day with no income, zero income. On the other hand, on the illicit market, on the very same cigarette trade, they have been given a free run of 100% market share from the day the announcement of the lockdown was announced. How then you call that?
So, Mr. Sibisi, let's just expand upon what you're saying there. When you talk about the illicit market being given 100% free rein to sell their products, what exactly are you referring to? What is going on in that space?
I'm referring to the fact that before lockdown, it was in the public domain that 42% of the market shares was in the hands of the criminal. I mean the illicit on cigarette. But then when the ban was announced, that added another 58% to give them complete 100% market share at the expense of the legal tobacco producers and South Africans for that matter.
Well, my apologies, just a bit of a problem, a slight problem with the connection there to Mr. Shadrack Sibisi. And we're talking about the ban on tobacco products. And of course, let's just speak to Mr. Sibisi once more. But we do seem to have a slight problem there. Mr. Sibisi, you were still explaining about this 100% free rein to those who are producing illicit tobacco products.
Yes, it is in the public domain that the illicit trade have been having a 42% market shares that pre-lockdown. But now, after the lockdown was announced, the legal cigarette industry could not sell their product because of the ban, which clearly give the illicit industry 100% run on the industry. That's a fact. Day in, day out, selectively so, according to my own assessment, they confiscate cigarette that is destined for the black market. How many of those cigarettes that have reached the intended recipient, which happen to be the 11 million legally adult that supposed to consume the product?
So what sort of interaction have you had with government as the tobacco industry to this point, Mr. Sibisi?
We've made submission pre-lockdown 5, 4, and recently the state level, we have already made submission. But we were not aware that they were playing games with us because at first we made submission to the Minister of Trade and Industry, to the Minister of Agriculture, as well as the President, hoping that they were going to listen to our pleas. But before level 4 was announced, the President come on telling the world that cigarette ban will be lifted when we enter level 4. But to my amazement, at the 11th hour, the Minister of Culture came and say they've reversed that pronouncement by the President due to the fact that 2,000 submissions were against the liftment of cigarettes, against 70,000 submissions. How do you call that?
Well, looking at the latest submission by government in filing court papers against that case that was brought by the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association, the government has actually submitted that the reason why they've done this, Mr. Sibisi, amongst others, is to protect public health and decrease the potential strain on South Africa's healthcare system. Is that a good enough reason for you? Do you accept that reason, that this is for the better good of the South African population?
I'll never accept that one. Remember, South Africa is not an island within the whole world community where this thing started. They've been doing the research and everything in that regard. Lately, it is in the public domain that a medical evidence has been produced, not an opinion, that said cigarette or tobacco product inhibited the spread of the coronavirus. But only here in South Africa, it's where it never happened. Remember, when we talk of this industry, I'm talking as a black South African, a person that previously didn't have a chance to venture into business, to get the dignity of being a human being, as I assume that this industry has told me to bring my dignity as well as my fellow members. But now the government changed that decision by the President, presumably for what you said the research says in their court papers. But there's 11 million adult people that are consuming the product. But unfortunately, at the moment, they are consuming it under the black market. It's a fact. 90% of smokers still smoke as we speak today. Who's being assisted? Against who? And this illegal cigarette, they pay nothing to the Reserve of Revenue, of which the legal one pay over 13 billion in tax, not talking about the sin increases. How do you call that?
So, Mr. Sibisi, two questions to what you've just said. Let's start by looking at the statistics that you are quoting about 90% of the people, smokers, are now consuming markets that are illicitly sold and procured.
That's a fact.
That was a study conducted by UCT.
It's not an assumption.
That was a study conducted by the University of Cape Town. But there is also a report by the Human Sciences Research Council that indicates that 88% of smokers were not able to buy cigarettes. So is this again a case of we will take whichever story, whichever science, whichever statistics bears out the position that we want to assume on this particular matter?
That one is very simple. The fact is that the 11 million adults that made the choice to consume cigarette are being put in prison, depriving them of their right to make choices. And again, on the other side, the hard-working new era black tobacco farmers are deprived of their dignity of running business to look after their welfare. Now it means it is upon the government to make it a point that every South African, black for that matter, must queue for grants. That's where we are heading to. Now we are going to be out. That's a fact. And that's very unfortunate.
We are running out of time, Mr. Sibisi, but I have to ask you about this illicit trade that you are lamenting. Who exactly is benefiting from this?
That's a good question. I need answers from that one. For me, if an investigation will be carried out, that will determine who actually receiving the money from this illicit group, I'll be happy. Because it is my own assumption that there is something fishy, because it is a known fact that body politics have been captured by this criminal. I don't know who, but the body politics itself, they need to come out.
So let me ask you to come out, Mr. Sibisi, because let's call a spade a spade. What exactly are you saying? Who has been captured by whom in this instance?
I'm saying investigation needs to be carried out. Who received the bulk of this illicit trade on cigarette at the end of the day? That's what I'm saying.
And who are you suggesting has been captured in the body politic?
Remember, any public figure, it is not desirable for such person to come at the closest proximity to the criminal. I don't want to say who. I mean the body politics needs to take full responsibility in what I'm saying.
As an active player in this industry, the bodies you represent, surely it is also within your interest to find out exactly who is benefiting, who is currently selling these illicit tobacco products. Why haven't you undertaken that particular investigation for your own benefit?
At the moment, there is still option to persuade the government, but it has come clear that they are not interested. They are only interested in making sure that the illicit market flourish at the expense of the legal one. That's a fact.
So will you be undertaking the investigation, seeing, as you say, a government doesn't seem to be interested in doing so?
Fortunately, we're a democratic society. This is an appeal that I'm making, that the relevant stakeholders in the government, they have to see to it that the investigation is carried out. That's what I'm asking for. And our members are asking.
Mr. Sibisi, thanks for your time this morning. Shadrack Sibisi, President of the Black Tobacco Farmers Association and also Chairperson of the South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance, talking to us about the ban on tobacco products and the impact that it's had on employers and employees' livelihood, and saying that they would like to see an investigation by government as to who exactly is benefiting from the sale of illicit tobacco products on the black market right now. With that, it's time for news. Leanne.